After the WWF days, we didn't get along. We didn't get along, and our relationship was deteriorating. It was just deteriorating, and it was like almost to the point like if we were in front of people and we'd actually shake hands. We'd be, how are you, Dad? Okay. We just just in front of people work a gimmick, And he could be very arrogant and very moody and even kind of like ignorant, like if he did, if he didn't want to, he treat you. He could really find good ways to treat you like an ass, if he wanted. But he would. Then he started to do some things like really out of character from the guy that I used to know as a kid, and. He would use his power towards me in a sense, like say, for example, we were in LA, Los Angeles. We were working for the same guy. By the way, the guy committed suicide. His name was Herb Abrams. And he was commentating and I was wrestling. I guess it got too uncomfortable for him, being that I was wrestling there. He would actually knock me slightly on while I was wrestling and he was commentating. Oh, gee, I don't know why David did that. That didn't look too good, or that. He would do it. I caught it. I don't know. Maybe he was being legit. I don't know. But anyway, I think he ended up telling them, look, it's getting uncomfortable. You either want him or you want me. So boom, I get canned, and I got canned. This was the time I really needed the money. He had his money. He had this wrestling for him is just to get out of the house. But it was my livelihood. I at the time, my daughter had maybe been like 3 years old, 4 years old. I needed the money. And he did that. I was working for a promoter named Bob Raskin in New Jersey, and my dad was on the card to either to wave or sign autographs or something, and he asked me would I wrestle on it. I says, of course, Bob, because I had worked for him before. And he'd call me back and say, gee, David, I'm sorry, I'm in a position here, I can't use you. And this is his words. I don't even know if Bob Raskin is still living, but he said, your dad said it's either him or me, and David, I have to have your dad. I can't, I says, yeah, well, I was mad, but I said, I understand, So he would put them in that. I think he did it to me in Japan, and he did some pretty hard things to stick to me. I think he did that to me in Japan. I don't know for sure, because he'll probably see this and say, that's not true, blah, blah. It may not be true. But you know what? Like I was telling you, I keep things in black and white, and I go by my gut. You got to go by your gut on some things if nobody comes up and tells you something, right? Mm-hmm. So I go by my gut a lot. I think he did things like that to me. I think that he did that to me. I think he even reported me to the IRS. Because what my biggest year in wrestling was? Mm-hmm. It was when I was in WWF. You know what it was? It was $60,000. That's not a lot of money. That's $30,000 because after taxes, that's $30,000. I owed some money to the IRS, but my God, they hounded me and froze my accounts. They made me so miserable for a couple of $1,000s. It doesn't make sense. You would have thought that I was some multi-million-dollar CEO or something,
And you think he reported you?
I think he reported me. I do. Just to make, maybe because I became independent and didn't really need them and don't need them today.
Now how many years have you since you talked to him?
15. Now let me tell you why that started. I am the one that abolished that relationship. Let that be said, because maybe people think maybe he did to me. That's not true. I wrote him a letter because you know what? Back then, first of all, I'm stubborn, and I was looking for closure because it was getting ridiculous. He had been ignorant to my wife, and he had done these things, and I had just about had it. And you know what? I said, I need closure, and I wrote the hardest letter, and I hope he got it, by the way. I wrote the hardest letter I'd ever have to do, that I ever had to do in my life. And I meant every word, and I didn't lie, not one iota. And if anybody wanted to challenge me on that, I dare. Because I poured my heart into that letter. And I basically, you know, said, well, we go our separate ways. You know, in this, I said, this is the last you'll hear of me in this lifetime. I meant it too. I meant it too. I meant it to this day. You know, life is full of hurt. It's full of tragedy. You know, that's the way it is. But
take us to the point when you wrote that letter. What were you feeling that it built to that boiling point that you felt you needed to abolish the relationship at that point?
You know what? I really can't. There was some things that were taking place at this time too. There was the steroid issues, and we weren't. Now at this time we weren't talking. Okay, we weren't. This all ties in with all this. This was at the time when that doctor in Allentown, that Dr. Zahorian, went to jail for providing steroids to the wrestlers. So the big steroid issue was out. I took steroids. My dad, either being bored or whatever, took it on his own, wanted to get involved into it. And I don't know if you remember, but Phil Donahue still had his talk show then. And he was on there, and they had you know, they were on there talking about steroids and this and that.